Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that, your courtesies in recognizing me. I would also say to the witnesses here that it was very refreshing to hear folks from an agency come in and on 2 occasions say, I don't believe we need more authority at this time. It's very unusual to hear those comments in this committee, at least. Also, Ms. LaFleur, I note, and it's been mentioned before, but I would note again, because sometimes the folks on the some of the folks on the other side of the aisle want to think it's just gas prices that are causing a problem, and you did acknowledge in your written testimony on page 2 that it's repowering older fossil generation that is uneconomic to operate or to retrofit for new environmental regulations when talking about the shutdown of coal. Do appreciate you recognizing that it's a combination. And likewise, in light of the fact that experts have previously testified in another hearing in this committee that they anticipate that gas will rise back up to about $4 by the end of the year, and that at that point coal once again becomes competitive on pricing, would you not acknowledge that at that point, if we get to that point, and there is some speculation there, but once we reach that point, that then it would be predominantly the new environmental regulations that are shutting down our facilities, our coal facilities? Yes or no?
I don't see it exactly that way, no.
All right.
Okay.
But it's still a major concern, and you have acknowledged that, and I appreciate
Absolutely.
that. You know, I thought it was interesting, somebody else brought up the cyber attacks, and apparently in 2012 we had a series of cyber attacks on gas pipeline companies and so forth. You recall seeing that information?
Yes.
And the concern was, I mean, they might have been trying to steal some information on how to do the fracking because we've been so successful on it, but also there were concerns that there were cyber attacks on the valves and the on-off switches, basically. Isn't that correct?
It was on the energy management system that regulates the pipelines and that opens valves and runs compressors and so forth, yes.
So that it's theoretically a successful cyber attack could close down or open up gas pipelines, close down ones we don't want closed down and open up ones we don't want opened. Isn't that correct?
Yes, theoretically, yes.
Now, I'm no expert on using the computer, but I was sitting here when that question was asked, and I started looking for, you know, attacks and cyber attacks, et cetera, on coal facilities. And the only thing I could find were EPA attacks on coal. I didn't find anything about foreign powers. Have you run across any instances where it appears that foreign powers are attempting to figure out ways to disrupt our supply of coal?
There have been cyber attacks on the energy management systems that turn plants on and off, and like FERC, cyber attacks are fuel neutral. They would mess up whatever was being turned on and off. I'm not aware that I remember of any specifically at a coal unit.
But I do think that in regard to your concerns about the pipelines, you previously indicated that one of the concerns was getting the pipelines to the facilities and so forth, and that it was a whole lot easier to have a supply of coal sitting there on the ground than it was to have the natural gas automatically show up when it was needed at the power plant. Didn't you indicate that to us earlier?
I think I said that was what was different about gas, that it came in a pipeline, yes.
And so if an energy production plant had a supply of coal and it was a coal burning plant, it would be less likely that for a few hours or even for a day that somebody could affect that supply of energy at that power plant than it would be if somebody did a successful cyber attack on our pipeline. Isn't that true?
Certainly the coal pile doesn't have the cyber risk, but I think you could still affect the energy management system that turns the plant on and off. I mean, we need to guard against these risks wherever they are.
All right. I do appreciate that as well. In regard to the natural gas supply, we're already having trouble getting the pipelines there. Do you think that there needs to be a redundancy built in those pipelines? I know that you don't want to charge the customer too much and you don't want to have too many pipelines, but at the same time, don't you think we would need more than just one pipeline to the facilities, or to make sure that if something happened to one supply, that there would be another supply readily available if we're going to put all our eggs in that basket or in one of those baskets?
Well, I'm not even sure I'd use the word redundancy. You need a robust grid, a robust network of more than one source of supply in different regions and localities, yes.
And it is always a little bit dangerous to put a huge percentage of your energy into one fuel source. It's always better to have multiple sources available to supply the electricity for the American citizen. Isn't that true?
Yes, I believe that.
And so it would be ill-advised for our country to completely eliminate coal as an energy source in light of the fact that we have the world's greatest supply of coal. Wouldn't that also be true?
I think we're much better off with the coal plants being retrofitted, as the vast majority of them are, than losing all of them.
I thank you and yield back.